Hello. Today I'm going to tell you an incredible story. Favorite story among the ancient Egyptians. It tells the story of a nobleman who fled his homeland and spent many years living among the Bedouins of Retenu. If you enjoy this kind of content and want to hear more fascinating stories, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, but only if you're genuinely interested. Get ready for the story, and to those listening before bed, I already wish you sweet dreams. For those not born in this yellow sea of sand, for those who do not know its laws, there was no sign of danger. The sky was clear, the air still, without the faintest breeze. A man in his 40s, by his appearance and dress, clearly an Egyptian noble, parted the linen curtains to feel the morning coolness. Tall mules, carrying loads on their backs, cheerfully flicked their tails. They too were resting from the exhausting heat. The gentle swaying lulled him. The man inside the litter closed his eyes. "Master," he heard a hushed, anxious whisper. The Egyptian flinched and stared with bloodshot eyes at the Bedouin who had appeared from nowhere. It was Tuim, a seasoned guide who had led many Egyptian caravans and was fully trusted by the envoy's advance escort. Why had he left them? "Look over there," the Bedouin whispered so softly that the Egyptian understood more from the movement of his lips than the sound. "Where?" "I see nothing," the Egyptian snapped. "Well, maybe a small cloud." "The yellow death," said the Bedouin. With that, he dropped to his knees and pressed his forehead to the ground several times. "What should we do?" The Egyptian's voice trembled with fear. "We must go to the hills. They will shield us with their backs." "There are enemies there," the envoy whispered. "There is no enemy worse than the yellow death. It will bury you in sand. The message you carry for the king of Babylon, Nergal, will receive it instead." "We won't make it," the Egyptian protested. "The hills are too far." "I know a shortcut," the Bedouin exclaimed. "But we must leave everything behind. The caravan must be abandoned." The envoy paused, deep in thought. No, he didn't care about the fate of the guards, porters, or mule drivers. What truly troubled him was the idea of arriving in Babylon without the gifts His Majesty had sent to the king of Babylon, his brother. That Babylonian brother was as greedy as a jackal. In the letters Babylonian envoys brought to Egypt, he always wrote, "Send me gold, more gold, for you have it as much as you have sand. Decide, Pharaoh." The Bedouin called the envoy by name. But the Egyptian didn't react to the familiarity. Instead, he remained silent. Then, with a swiftness uncharacteristic for someone of his rank, he climbed out of the litter. "You don't joke with the yellow death. Better to return to His Majesty and confess than be buried beneath the sands." And so, they walked into the endless desert. The Bedouin led, the Egyptian followed, barely keeping up. No one called after them. No one followed. The caravan was left to fate. By noon, the wind picked up. The sky darkened with a murk through which the sun barely shone. Sand funnels spun here and there. Sharp pebbles stung their feet. The wind intensified. The fugitives had to hold hands so they wouldn't be torn apart in opposite directions. The air thickened with dust until darkness surrounded them. When Pharaoh felt he was about to lose consciousness, the wind began to die down, or at least it stopped lashing his face, now raging somewhere behind. His shoulder bumped into something solid. The Bedouin pushed the Egyptian forward, and they found themselves, as they discovered the next morning, inside a cave. Listening to the whistling and howling of the storm outside, Pharaoh recalled a proverb, "In the desert, all gods are cruel." How could anyone live in this land where there was no Nile, where the earth burns like a hot skillet? Night passed, or maybe more. Pharaoh had slept long, exhausted from battling death. When he awoke, he heard the Bedouin singing, the sound coming from somewhere far away, as if from another world. Fierce, scorching winds rose high, mountains of sand piled in the sky, but still, the heavens' cup stands tall. Pharaoh, brushing sand away with his hands, crawled toward the light. At last, he found himself next to the Bedouin. After dusting himself off and clearing his mouth of sand, the Egyptian began looking around. Before him lay a plain dotted with green and blue patches of oases and lakes. On both sides, towering cliffs rose like the fangs of some beast. No wonder they called it the Lion's Maw. Or perhaps those who claim that an Egyptian army had once been trapped here, 300 or 200 years ago, were closer to the truth. The maw had closed. Not one man escaped. Since then, Egyptians had avoided this valley. Sensing his companion's unease, Tuam said, "This is the land of the free people of Retenu. Their boss is Amenenchi. These are his pastures." On a slope, a flock of sheep blocked their path. What can you expect from dumb animals? They can't distinguish between a royal envoy and a common man. But the shepherd should know better. The man didn't bow down. He just stared, wide-eyed. When Pharaoh came close, he barely lifted his broad hat. If only I could grab him and beat him with a stick. But this is a foreign land. By evening, the travelers reached an oasis, the residence of Amenenchi. The chief greeted the Egyptian without flattery. "May you and your ruler live 100 years. May your land never run dry. What brings me the honor of such a distinguished guest? The Yellow Death buried my caravan. I need your help. My sovereign, ruler of the north and south, will reward you if I return to the capital. I need no reward. As for help, speak with my son-in-law, Sinuhet." Sinuhet? But that's an Egyptian name. Egyptian indeed, replied the chief. 30 years ago, I found this man, half dead from thirst and fear. I brought him back to life. He stayed with us, learned to herd sheep and defend them from lions. But the family of fear cannot be uprooted. What is he afraid of now? Let him tell you himself. A few minutes later, Pharaoh saw a completely gray-haired old man. His neck was thin, his face covered in deep wrinkles. This is what Pharaoh heard from him. "My name is Sinuhet. I once accompanied Sinuhet, the eldest son of Pharaoh Amenemhat and his heir. At that time, the Pharaoh's army, led by Sinuhet, was stationed at the border with the nomads. One night, Sinuhet, the divine falcon, vanished along with his retinue, and no one in the army knew where he was. An evil spirit, whose name is Curiosity, whispered to me to approach one of the tents, where I heard voices. And I heard that the divine face of the Pharaoh had disappeared beyond the horizon, that the ruler of Upper and Lower Egypt had ascended to the heavens and joined with the sun. They were urging someone, whose name I do not wish to speak, to hurry to the palace before Sinuhet returned to claim it. When I heard what they were saying, my hands dropped, and trembling took over my body from head to toe. I realized that rebellion would erupt in the capital, one that would bring death to many. I darted away from the tent and hid in the bushes. Several times, soldiers ran past me. I thought they were searching for me because I had learned a great secret, and so I didn't move. As soon as night fell, I set off. When I reached the Nile, I crossed it in a boat without a helmsman. The western wind helped me. Soon, I was near the wall built to protect against the Bedouins. I crawled past it through the bushes, so the guards wouldn't see me. At the great black lake, with its bitter waters, thirst overcame me. My throat dried out. Sand crunched between my teeth. I thought, this is the taste of death. But then I heard a herd of livestock, and I lifted my heart. The Bedouins gave me water. They boiled milk for me. Crossing from land to land, I reached the territory of Chief Amenenchi. He said, "Stay with me, and you will be well here." And I believed him. He gave me his eldest daughter in marriage and allowed me to choose land for myself. Figs and grapes grew there. I have 3 sons. They've become men, and each one now rules his own tribe. But strength is leaving me. Weakness has entered my body. My arms and legs have grown heavy. My eyes have dimmed. It is frightening to die in a foreign land. When you came here, did you not see the bones of those who, by the customs of this country, were left to the birds and jackals? Your fate is a sorrowful one, Sinuhet, the envoy replied. You're like a bull that wandered into another herd. My heart aches for you. Here, you are without a tomb. The fate of the Bedouins awaits you. Sinuhet collapsed. His body trembled with sobs. Be kind to me, he pleaded, falling at the envoy's feet. tell the good God that through my own foolishness, I learned a palace secret. But I carried it with me into exile, and no harm came of it. The good God is merciful, the envoy said, helping the old man to his feet. He will forgive your sin, if you help me return to Egypt, and if your father-in-law, Amunenchi, swears not to shelter any more fugitives from our land. Yes. Yes. Sinuhet cried with joy. I will do everything you ask. Another year passed. A trade caravan arrived in the land of Retenu. They brought a litter for Sinuhet. Swaying on the shoulders of strong Ethiopians, the old man, looking like a living mummy, read the lines of the papyrus, and tears streamed down his cheeks. You have wandered through distant lands. Your heart drove you to flee from one country to another, because fear had taken hold of it. You lived for many years among the Bedouins and became like one of them. But we remember you as you once were. So return to the capital, where you grew up, to kiss the earth near the great gate. The dust on your body will be given back to the desert. Your clothes will be returned to the dwellers of the sands. You will be anointed with fragrant oils and wrapped in cool linen. You will not meet your end in a foreign land, nor will you be wrapped in sheepskin by Asiatics. Your mummy will rest in a coffin made of Lebanese cedar. Oxen will draw you. Singers will walk before you. Dwarfs will dance at the entrance to your tomb. Come home, Sinuhet.